little bit about yourself. How did you end up in the artificial intelligence industry?
Okay. Um, so I have other companies that I started before, but this is my first tech startup. So I did a tutoring for like over 10 years. And then my husband and I, we have a brick and mortar business. And then I also help start a nonprofit. But I've always been very fond of computers. My grandfather worked for Apple, so I was lucky enough to have a computer in my room since I was 4. Um, and I was raised by my grandparents, so my grandfather would always start giving me whatever he had to test out for work. He would be like, "You're better at this than I am. Try this out. Tell me what you think." Um, so I guess I was a young product tester. But for me, like computers were always fun. I didn't see it as work, so I learned how to do math and all kinds of things on the computer because I would play games. So I thought I was just playing around. And then for like one of our class projects in middle school, I made like a 20-page website, and I think someone else in the class made a sheet cake. So, it was just, again, to me, it was just a fun thing. And then in high school, I made this was before everybody had their own website. But I made because the internet came out when I was 9, to give a little context. But I made a website for me and my friends in high school, and we all had our own like inside jokes and things like that. And then same thing in college, they gave us our own URL, so I used it, but I was never like formally in any of the computer classes. But
Do
always
you
have.
remember what did you use? If it was HTML or
Yeah, definitely HTML in the very beginning. I don't remember what there was a program, maybe Dreamweaver or something in college
yeah.
that they had something like that. I'm totally guessing. And then I worked for a newspaper after school, and I helped them with the WordPress. So and then I did take a C++ class in high school, but that was my only formal
Oh,
class
okay,
per
okay.
se. And then when I was in undergrad, my thesis, did a I programmed my own IAT, the Implicit Attitudes Test. So it was very popular at the time in Harvard, and when I had set it up, it had only been done in 6 states in the United States. And nobody at my school or in the state that I was in had used it. So I actually was troubleshooting with a programmer in Australia who was familiar with it, and I was correspond with him by email. So I set that up. But my undergraduate degrees were in philosophy and psychology, and then I got my master's in counseling, and then I went back for some pre-med stuff. But again, no formal tech things. That had always been kind of what I had done for fun. Um,
Wow.
so
Yeah, it's interesting. So now I know we're gonna talk about your product later, your OperantFlow, but now it start to make sense the psychology.
mhm.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So you have a company now that's called MotivateU, right?
Right.
It's about fitness, and yeah. When did you launch this company? Who else is involved? Are you a solo founder?
Yeah, I'm a solo founder, so I incorporated the company on the anniversary. My grandmother had passed away about a year ago, and her birthday was August 16th. So I incorporated the company on August 16th, except it was a Sunday, so it didn't actually formally go through till the 17th, but that's the date of the formation of the company. I am a solo founder, but I do have a strong board. So we have 5 people on the management team. I have 3 people on the board of directors, and then 2 people on the advisory board, and there's 19 team members overall. So we definitely have a large team. That's how I get away with being a solo founder, is that I have a lot of important people and people who have strengths in what they're working with to kind of prop the team up and make us successful. But yeah, the whole Motivate You title, while we sometimes use our Muse symbol, which means ocean, uh, the whole Motivate You thing is supposed to be very accessible. So I think a lot of tech companies have really cool names, but they're intimidating to people outside of tech. And so the reason I went with a very simple name was because my goal is to make wellness accessible to everybody, right? So not only being affordable, but just not being intimidated by the name itself, or be like, I don't know what that is, so I'm just not going to look at it. right? Like everybody needs motivation, and wellness surrounds motivation. So whether we use tech or people or a combination of both, it should still be something that people feel comfortable engaging with.
I love that. Yeah, it's very interesting. I was actually about to ask you about the naming, especially of your product. Your main product is OperantFlow,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
So that's named,
And
yeah, after operant conditioning.
yeah,
Because a lot of
exactly. I
times,
was reading on Google about
yeah,
that, the three types of learning, right? And it
yes,
defines exactly how your product works, or at least the main feature, which is allow fitness instructors to provide instant feedback on user exercises, right?
correct. Yeah, so there's a product in the market. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's called a Mirror. It's a life-size mirror. What they were the
Yeah.
company's purchased by Lululemon, so it's $1,500. Kind of in the same field as like the Peloton and Tempo, where you have to like purchase first a very expensive piece of equipment, then you're locked into working with that company and what they offer, right? And the biggest problem I find with those companies is that they're not human-based or trainer-based. So Peloton has millions of users, but they only have 15 trainers that they videotape and kind of like put out their information. And it's very realistic looking, but you're really training against a bot or a recording, and then you're getting feedback from also bots and things like that. So with our platform, you're actually connecting to your gym and your trainer. And the important thing is then you can go back into the physical gym. Sometimes you might be able to go to the gym, sometimes you can't. There's all different reasons why. Convenience, time, traffic, kids, travel. But having the actual trainer on the other side is what's important. So we're giving the trainers the leverage of the machine learning and the AI that these other companies are using, except you can connect to human. And then the even more useful part is that it's all done from a mobile device. So you don't have to purchase that mirror or the Peloton bike and then have somewhere to put it in your house. You can just take the phone, stick it in your pocket, hop on a plane, go on your business trip, still connect to your gym, come home, and then jump back into your gym. And it's all very seamless.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. I think that's what we are all craving right now, especially in these times, that human connection.
Right.
And I believe your product handles that very well because it's based on community, right?
Right.
Instead of just a huge corporation running a studio of small trainers just doing everything. It definitely provides a lot of value both for the trainer and the trainees. So yeah, I think that's great. Is your whole team remote?
Yes, we are remote.
Everyone working remotely?
Yes, remote distributed. So we have people from all the way from Canada down to South America on the team so far. So
Okay,
we're
that's
all
great.
within a kind of a tight time zone,
Yeah,
but within 3 time zones of each other. But yes, we are all over the place. The employee aspect is really important too, like making sure people have time to spend with their family and their community. And we have, once the pandemic is cleared up well enough, we have plans to do quarterly retreats in different locations throughout the country. And then, of course, there might be certain locations that are inconvenient for people, or maybe it's a bad time of year. And so then alternatively, you get to volunteer during that retreat time at a place of your choice, and it's also paid. So I think that's a good way for us to come together as a community, but also for people to get engaged in their own communities. But I think for the most part, most people are saying that they would prefer to work from home. I was lucky enough to work like 95% from home before the pandemic hit, so I'm kind of used to it. I think a lot of the negative things about remote work aren't related to remote work, but are related to the pandemic. And there's
definitely.
being actually trapped is a different feeling than choosing to work from home, and I think that's where part of it's getting a bad rap.
100% agree with you. I've also been working remotely for about 3 years, I think, and everything was great until the pandemic. Like it started to take a lot of mental energy to cope with normal work weeks, and yeah, it's really different. Hopefully, people don't get the bad idea of remote working from this current situation because it's really great to have actual real valuable time with your family and just
Right.
be able to do whatever you want at your own pace. super valuable, I think.
Yeah, I'm a night owl myself, so I work really well in the evenings. I also have young kids, so there's been times where they really needed me one day, or they're sick, or I'm just, I'm not productive, say, in a certain time of day, and I can push myself all I want, but I'm not going to make the results happen, right? So it's better for me just to go outside and go for a walk. And then again, like I
Yeah,
can work sometimes till 2 in the morning, and that's fine because that's when I'm going to get it done and be more productive. So I think that flexibility is huge, and that's what so not only is our team remote, we also don't have like hard hours. So there will be meetings when, obviously the goal is for everybody to attend those meetings, but I don't care if you work at night or on the weekends. I mean, at the end of the day, it's when you're going to be the most productive.
sounds like an awesome place to work. Yeah, it's unrealistic to expect someone to be productive or to expect everyone to be productive at the same times. Like, I'm also a night owl, so I find myself at 10 a.m. just waking up and not wanting to go straight into code. I'm a developer,
Mhm.
and yeah, I spend most of my productive time at night, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. So yeah, another thing I saw that I'm really curious about is your patent technology. Is this related to the OperantFlow product? Is this software? Is this hardware?
Yeah, so it's the patent is on the and part of it is other pieces of the technology that are not so I guess well published, or like kind of IP that's we don't really put on the website, but are leveraging multiple technologies to be able to do things such as like decrease processing power, um, and also like not worrying about the battery life, and adding things to increase precision. But the patent is on the synchronization of data sets with two live objects, as opposed to what's out in the market now, which is the synchronization with data sets with a library of pre-planned moves. So like if you're
Ah,
thinking beyond
okay.
the like direct fitness classes, like if I am an Instagram star and I want to come up with a brand new dance move and nobody's ever done it before, and I'm going to have like a live class if you want to be the first one to get in on it. You couldn't do that with any of the technologies now, right? Even if you pre-recorded it, because you're kind of restricted to certain movements. Whereas because ours is synchronizing with the live trainer or dancer or instructor and another live person on the other side, you could literally make up whatever move you want in real time.
Wow, amazing. Are you working directly on that, or do you have engineers?
Both. I do more heavily the research because my code that I give developers a lot of credit. The codes change so quickly, so rapidly. There's so many new ones. I've really loved learning a lot more about Python and all of that. But my speed is not great. I'm a perfectionist, so I do a lot of the research, and then I do very little bit of the coding at this point.
Okay. So your mobile apps are, do you know if they are native or web based? I mean, I assume they're native since the performance is a key point in your product, right?
So if you look on our products page or our plans page, we originally were going to hold off on adding end users or fitness member trainees till we had all the gyms uploaded onto the system. But in 1 week alone, we had like 397 people requesting to get on the platform as end user,
Wow.
like individuals. So we realized there was this desire for it, and seeing all of the features that we had already building into the app, we realized we could offer the other features that don't require the instructor to at least get the community growing and start it. Because part of my concern was like, some people, once they visit your website once, if they decide there's not something there for them, it's hard to get them to return, right? And so I didn't want to lose those people while they could. So that app is actually not native, but it doesn't have the same, um, what's like the same requirements that we need for the live classes. And it was because we spun it out real quick because we want to keep laser focused on the B2B sales. So we're not really changing that. This is just if people come to us and they want to register, we're allowing them to. So we kind of spun that up and pushed it out pretty quickly. We're just working on just fancying up the UI and did some testing with like in terms of like, is it clear what each of these buttons mean? So that's what we're going through right now. We've changed just slightly some of the words here or there because we tweaked it. 'Cause you know, when you're designing it, it seems very clear what you're like. Of course, X means X, but somebody's like, no, I think X means Y. So that's kind of slowed it down a little bit, but we want to make sure we put it out right. So some of the prototypes that you see out on the website now, the only difference will be like one word here or an extra arrow or something like that, just making it a little bit more clear. But the enterprise app won't be available till the end of the summer, and that will be native. If that makes sense.
Okay, that's great.
So that's
Yeah.
starting on the desktop, just because also I use my phone a lot as with small kids, sometimes having a baby sleep on me. But I know using something like an Excel spreadsheet on the phone is not user friendly, right? Like you can use it, but there's a lot of data. And we have a lot of data available on the platform for the trainers and the admins and the wellness programs. So my thought is that they will primarily probably be using it on their computer, at least in the beginning. And we can give ourselves a couple months to get that part all streamlined for the mobile app.
Makes sense. Yeah, at work, we've been working on a fitness app too, and the research also suggests that almost everyone uses their laptop or their TV for working out from home.
Yeah.
Almost no one uses their mobile phone.
I know, it's funny,
So,
but they want to, right? Like they want the idea of it. So we're like putting it out there, but we're like, are you really going to use it? One of my engineers tried it outside on his phone and he's like, yeah, it works great. And I could see again, if you're traveling into a hotel room, but you'll probably still bring your laptop if you're traveling for work,
same.
you know. But
Exactly.
if maybe you're like running late and you just don't for whatever reason have it, you can use it. But I think the community pieces are much more likely to be on the phone, like checking in to say like, well, where am I compared to my friends with reaching these goals that I set for myself. But yeah, I'm kind of a hard betting on that. I know doing anything other than mobile first is like frowned upon these days, but realistically speaking, carpal
Yeah,
tunnel
it's a
is through
weird
the roof.
space to work on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Everyone wants an app, but it's not really what they need. So it's a push and pull kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So about that patent pending technology, how does it look? I've never patented some software. How much does it cost? How much does it take to get that patent? How does it
It's
work?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So the first thing I did before I even found the company was a few user interviews that gave me enough like I guess a push to then go ahead and talk to more people about options. And then that's when I looked into the patent process right around that same time. I got a good amount of it done on my own. I did like a patenting class, and then I realized that patenting software is really hard to do like legally, like even the methods. You can patent the methods, but it's hard to get them approved on your own, I
Okay.
should say. So without a lawyer, you're fighting an uphill battle. It's easier to get like a physical product through the patent office on your own, even though that's super hard too. The U.S. patent attorneys, or U.S. patent office, even suggests you get an attorney.
Wow.
So it costs $15,000 to file a patent. That was the most expensive thing I've paid for the company. Um, so
Did
yeah,
you use some fund? Did you raise money, or was it all
that
out
was
of your
self-funded at
pocket?
that point. Yeah, that was self-funded.
Okay.
I've put about 60,000 into the company so far, and I just started raising. So far I've raised 20,000.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. So right
Yeah.
now, you said you're focusing on B2B sales. Is that
Yes.
where the money's going?
So we haven't started formal sales yet. We're just doing like at this point of building up all the social media. So prior to starting this company, I was on Facebook once or twice a year. I'm still on Facebook, the least of all of the platforms as possible. But I just started my own Twitter and company Twitter account in April. I never used Twitter before, never even clicked through. The only time I saw a tweet was when someone posted it on LinkedIn. Yeah, and then I just started an Instagram account and a YouTube. Well, late April, then I did a YouTube account, and then in May I did an Instagram account. So I've been spending all my time on that, but we've already gotten organic leads coming to us through that. So it makes me feel even more like we should keep building that up. And then once we get to like maybe a week out from launch, I'm going to start doing formal sales. We also have all the user interviews we did. That got us about 80 leads from that I have to follow up with. Just trying to balance the time for ramp up versus, like when can we onboard people versus when is it ready. So I think for people who are already on that like list that they already are interested, I'm trying not to go back to them too soon because they're already like wanting to kind of use the product. And I don't want to get people like super excited too. There's that like fine line between when you are like, okay, you're on the list versus now you have to wait. Right. So,
Yeah.
But I think once we get through all of those people, then I'll start doing more formal sales. And maybe not so much. The paid advertising on social media has turned into a train wreck with some of the new algorithms. So the focus is probably mostly going to be reaching out to people that fall within our target demographic and then moving out from there.
What kind of trainers do you think is your target audience or your main clients?
So like community-based fitness centers and gyms. So for example, like if you think of Orange Theory or CrossFit, like they at their core are about the community, right? So when one of the people I was channeling when I came up with the idea was my friend who does CrossFit, and he lives, breathes, and dies it. Like he would go on a business trip and you thought like his arm was getting cut off, like he could not handle it. Like he would go to birthday parties, baby showers, this is all pre-pandemic, but he did everything with CrossFit. And even if you go to like an empty gym, like in a hotel, like you'll see like their beautiful pristine gym and it's always empty, right? Like there's nobody in there. Nobody wants to work out alone in a place they don't know. So those gyms that like people want to go back to, but they can't always, again, because of traffic time. Or I had one friend who relocated and he was trying the new CrossFit. This is a different CrossFit person. I've talked to a lot of CrossFit people about this. And he likes the new CrossFit gym, but he still wishes he was part of his old one. So wouldn't it be great if he could still connect with them for some of the classes, So I think that's the people that are really close to their friends in the gym. There's this book called The Power of Habit, and in that book they talk about, or the author talks about, the YMCA did a study that people actually go to gym more to make friends than to work out.
Wow,
Right.
really?
Yeah. And so can we like, build on that? And again, like I'm hoping with I worked in the hospital for about 7 years in emergency rooms. And I've always been one who around like flu season kind of does not go out as much. And I've always also been one where if I'm sick, I'll stay home, even like, not spread it around. And I think for a while for a long time, people didn't really think about that in the US. And I'm hoping now that since the pandemic has occurred, that people will be more cognizant of it. Like it is healthy to work out if you have a cold. With the flu, you might want to rest, but with the cold, you don't necessarily have to rest. Or when you start feeling better, but you're still contagious, can people hopefully make the right choice and like still work out from home? And this might be one of those tools that helps them to do that. So yeah, the community-based fitness is where we're targeting. We've gotten some interest from people who are purely doing things online, but our goal is for people to be able to like still interact. Like you should still be able to have like coffee with your trainer. Like it shouldn't be somebody that you can never see, or when you go back home to your old gym, you can see that person, as opposed to this person who has like 2 million clients that they can't actually ever interact with, right?
Got it. Yeah, the ones that already have their own local community, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, because and with having a brick and mortar business between my husband and I, like that, I kind of have a bleeding heart for actual, physical places that are trying to make it, and the gyms have just gotten like decimated with the pandemic, and besides the pandemic, there was AI fitness. So yeah, the pandemic was kind of like the icing on the cake, but I feel like the AI fitness market was kind of clawing at them for a while, and this has just kind of like pushed them over the edge. But like, if we could just merge the human connection with the data, that's what we need. Because right now we have like two polar opposite camps. And the only things that are really being sold to fitness centers are what I call like virtual filing cabinets, where you're just like connecting technology. So there's a ton of middleware companies out there that just, you pay a ridiculous amount of money to connect a bunch of other programs that you have that you're also paying money for. And like gyms have started to think like that's all that's out there, and it's because it is. Nobody's created anything new for them to help them compete and stay viable.
Yeah, that's what we've all seen from gyms from 10 years ago. They're still the same, using the same technologies and
Or paper and
running the
pencil.
same costs. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, how does AI fit into all of this, and how hard has it been to explain the benefits of AI to the trainers that you're trying to bring to the platform?
Yeah, I think that explaining the tech in general is really difficult. Like copywriting is so hard. I tried to hire other people to do it. That was even harder because they have to get it themselves first, right? So I've realized I'm the one who has to do it for now until
Yeah,
the product's more clear. Um, but the AI comes in a couple ways. So one thing we're building out that's not done yet too is the natural language processing. So thinking about like for people who aren't familiar with it, if you're like sending out a Google email or Gmail rather, it'll tell you like, oh, thank you, or sure, like really silly, not very helpful responses. So we want to merge that with like the trainer's personality. But at the end of the day, like they can't necessarily follow up with everybody all the time. So if somebody's missed a class like 3 weeks in a row and then they come back, you're going to want to congratulate that person. But if you have like 100 students, it's going to be hard for you as a trainer to really keep track of all those people and know like who's coming and who's going. And even if you do, then you have to like, even if you're like physically that person came into the gym sometimes, you'd have to like run after them after class. And all that non face-to-face time for trainers is not paid. They just get paid for the classes they run and the training they do. But that feedback helps people to return, right? So that's like
yeah.
on the individual level. And then on like the gym owner or like the admin level, trainers have really high turnover. And so a lot of times you have no ideas, like if they had a huge amount of clients, like was it the trainer? Was it the type of workout they were doing? Was it the type of people who were already doing, like seeking out that trainer? None of those metrics, they're not being captured or measured. And so if we can start measuring that and seeing what works, what doesn't work, even before a trainer leaves, and then like reproducing those positive things across other trainers. And like my
Okay.
real goal is to think about like how can we use this for like overall wellness and health. Like if we see that if you have a cardiac arrest and then you go to yoga 3 times a week, is that the magic number, or do you have to go 4 times a week to prevent yourself from getting back in the hospital? Like when we have those metrics, we'll be able to really, I think, work more on preventative medicine as well.
Got it. Yeah, so it's like feeding the feedback loop with more data from both sides to keep the motivation going, right?
Right, yes, it starts from the micro level with the motivation to like all the way to the macro level with like the prevention.
Yeah, so, what are your biggest challenges that you have experienced with AI in general? Maybe technical or maybe non-technical?
So I think the biggest, the part kind of piggybacking off of your last question would be the people's understanding of it. So I think there's the like extreme movies and like AI is terrible. But on the other hand, like are people that wrong? Not really, because a lot of AI has been used to get rid of humans, right? So you think about AI fitness and like Peloton, Tempo, Mirror, they really are. They're reducing the humans' jobs. And yes, we are making more developers' jobs, but not everybody could be a developer, right? Like we need to have other things. And social connections are actually like the highest correlation to longevity. So we can't just get rid of people. We still need people. So I think one of the things is making people realize that there are ways we can use AI to benefit humans, not just to like replace them, which is what we're focusing on. And then as far as the tech goes, like with all tech, it's buggy and you can't always predict, and you can try to make a really good algorithm, but it'll sometimes be a little bit different than what you thought. So we had a really fun experience where I don't think this is the first time person outside the company that's heard this, but we're trying to set the algorithm so that when you're on a Zoom call, whoever needs the most help, like whatever user needs the most help pops up. We actually have it based on the user's average as opposed to everybody, so one person's not hogging the screen. But
Oh,
that's the
okay,
short
okay.
version. But what happened was our algorithm was so precise that it, like, when we first tested it, it was like a strobe light, and like I literally had to like duck for cover, and I was like, okay, somebody like tell me if I'm feeling the keyboard, how many keys over do I go to hit this thing to escape? Because I was like, I can't look. It was just like it was flashing so much. It was so sensitive. So sometimes the only way to do it is test it, and we couldn't. The person who had set the algorithm obviously couldn't test it with multiple users. He actually tried to set it up that he was multiple users, but again, he was one person, so he wasn't triggering the switch. And so when we actually had a big room of people doing it, it just so we had to tweak it, and that was fixed. But I think that the communication piece and like the marketing piece is actually much harder than the tech. To be
Okay,
honest.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like, yeah, getting to know what actually your company uh, does and how does it work, that's the hardest part, you would say?
Yeah, and getting people to like realize that, yeah, like this is not going to replace me, so I don't have to be afraid of it. And then like, how is it different from the middleware? Again, a lot of people go through our website and they think we're just connecting things again, and we're like, no, we actually have our own solution. And once people go through the demo, they get it, but they can't even, because it has never been shown to them as possible. It's like almost like there's this like light switch that goes off. It's like they don't believe before they see the demo that what I'm telling them is actually real. So they somehow they are thinking of it as a different
Precondition or
solution.
something?
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, I thought it was like this. Like one person told me that this trainer he was currently using a product where he would record videos, then his trainees would watch the video, record themselves doing the exercise, and then he would get the results. And I said, well, how do you give them feedback? He said, I sit and watch the video. I'm like, you sit and watch a little video? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, then what's the point of the technology? He's like, they can work out whenever they want. And I was like, but you have to sit there and watch each individual person's video and then give them feedback? Are you kidding? Like, that's not technology. Like, that's 1990s technology. You're just sending videos back and forth. That's ridiculous. There was no synchronization, no nothing, no data transfer. But he thought that's what we did at first because that's all he had ever seen before. So that was his, like, the extent of what was possible, right?
That's
So it's,
funny. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually saw a company that did exactly what you just described. I think it was called Blaze.io or something.
and
And
yeah,
I don't
always have these
remember.
tech names, and they could people are thinking like it's something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it, I don't know if it got funded, but it was on a collection of pitches given to VCs.
Hmm.
And yeah, everyone was like, "Oh, okay, this is new." It's like it's not. It's just a video. It's just recordings. It's YouTube.
Yeah, it's really that part's like the hardest part. I'm like, and I can tell you a lot of the middleware companies are getting funded. So then when people see like, and I won't name any names, but there's a couple big ones out there right now, and then people are like, oh well, it's VC backed. It must be something new and cool.
Yeah,
And it's like, or they just know the market's going to buy it, so they'll kind of sell it to you, or it's newer than what was offered last week, but it's still just reusing old technology or combining old technologies. It's just because certain markets, like the fitness market, have just like been left behind. Like there are big gyms that charge hundreds of dollars a month and over $100 an hour for training that literally use clipboards and paper and pen, and
yeah.
then the papers go right into a drawer and nobody does anything with it. Like everybody's assessments are different. So you can switch trainers and think you're doing worse, and it's just because the first person assessed you differently. Like what's recommended for one versus another is mostly based on what trainers remember as being useful. Nobody's actually tracking stuff even in Excel, let alone like in a useful way, because it's time consuming. They don't get paid to do it. So, people are just going to keep moving on and try to get to those paid hours. So the system is broken the way it's been set up.
Yeah, you're innovating not only the technology but also the business model. So it benefits trainers in a way that no one has ever offered them before. It's really great.
Right.
Uh, yeah, I think the last thing would be what's your vision for the future? Maybe 10, 15 years from now, how do you think technology or AI will affect our lives? What's your, what are your thoughts on that?
So I really think we're going to move away from this like all or nothing situation where we either have to have AI or not. I think there's been a lot of people fighting back against like technology for a while, but you know, people are slowly moving to using it. And I think we're going to realize like we can, like, the technology is not in charge. Like, we don't have to do what's best for the technology. Like, we can do what's best for people, and there doesn't have to be
Exactly.
this like extreme. So I think we're gonna find like a good middle ground, and we're gonna start making out products that actually like help people and like enhance people instead of, again, like just getting rid of them. And I think that's part of like the big corporate companies too, just being like, let's just, you know, get rid of the bottom line, and that's what's kind of given tech a bad name. But I think we're going to have more accessible things. I'm thinking about like blockchain and all those technologies, right? That's all about accessibility and community and equal access, and I think that's where things are moving. And I hope so, because they'll be really cool.
Me too, me too. I love it, and I love the direction where you're going. Hope to see more of your um, products, more of your company anytime soon. Um, do you have any advice, any quote that you like that you maybe want to share?
Sure. Warren Buffett said that the difference between being successful and really successful is learning how to say no, or that I believe he said that really successful people say no all the time. Um, and I had to learn that too. I had, you know, this is the first company that was like purely like my passion. Every other one that I had done, it was either I did it because it was easy and it just kind of, I fell into it, or I was helping other people, like, you know, do something that was a passion of theirs. But before I started the company, I was spread really thin. I was doing a lot of volunteer work, and I was on a board, and I had to kind of cut some of that stuff out, because once you decide what your goal is, you have to make sure that 99% of what you're saying yes to is moving towards that goal. And I think a lot of people hear all this like, oh, we say yes to opportunities, and it's like, yes, but say yes to the right opportunities, or you'll never get where you're going. And so like we still do, like I can still volunteer now because we've joined the Pledge 1%. So we give back 1% of our time and our product and our profits. But now I'm doing it through the business. So instead of volunteering for other people's missions, I'm still able to give back to the community, but also move my company forward. And so I think that's where you have to like find that balance. Like, you have to learn to say no, and it's really hard when you're used to like being a people pleaser. But you can just like see if you can rework the stuff that you're saying yes to make sure it's like heading you in the right direction.
That's really great, really great. Uh, Thank you so much
Mm-hmm.
for doing this with me. I
Of course.
appreciate you being here with me, and yeah, hopefully we will talk soon.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I'm definitely interested to see what you're working on too, because it sounds like you're kind of in the same space.
Definitely, yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Okay,
Have a nice day.
no problem. You too. Bye.
Bye.